time to listen to me grind. Take down the film watchers and nerds all at once. I am one of those.
Okay, bros and broettes, I guess. I don't know. I'm doing videos on a market share prospect database, which is so fun. You're gonna have so much fun. There is nothing more fun on YouTube to watch than a man talking about a spreadsheet. There's just facts. But I do get asked a lot, like, what does that even mean? And so I'm trying my best to do some videos that I can send people just in case it will help, because I actually have been asked. Okay, I got asked in our Patreon Discord, so I'm doing it. I just finished recording like a big video just on the overview of the database, what's in there, what's in the tab, where you can find stuff. I recommend watching that, obviously, because 30 minutes of a spreadsheet, right? But no, I'm also going to do it by position. So I want to talk right now about some of the abbreviations in the quarterback tab, because the quarterback tab is really small, because quarterback evaluation sucks, so I just can't let it sit there, and so there's not as much in there, but I'm hoping it will also help out with some of the other tabs as well, because there's a lot of similar abbreviations, because they come from my mind, and my mind's messed up and wrong a lot. So yeah, let's do it. If you don't know where to find it, pin to my Twitter timeline. That's it, at Pahowdy. It's this first post. It sends you to this post on my Patreon. Don't panic. You don't have to give me any money. It's just where I hosted the link. And then you click on the link, and it sends you here to this thing. If I can adjust that, there we go. And that's the first page of the data. But you see, Pahowdy's MS database, and this I keep changing the name, but the link is always the same. So that's what's important. I really recommend checking out the sources tab, because actually smart people that do a lot of the most smart hard work are listed in here, as well as, you know, basic other stuff. But again, see that other video. But today we're going to be talking about the quarterback. Or today, did I change my shirt just so it looks like it's a different time, like I'm not just doing back-to-back videos? Maybe. It might even be worse than that. I might just have put on yet another shirt over the shirt I'm actually wearing. You'll never know. But quarterbacks, let's go over here. All right, big screen, baby. All right, so what have we got in here? DR and DP. Keep your minds out the gut there. Refer to draft round and draft position. That's the same in every tab. I don't know why. I never thought that would confuse people, but it's confusing people. So DR is draft round, DP is draft position, and by that I mean the literal selection number. So if you're drafted at the very last pick in round 1, you'll have a 32 draft position. Pick 32, right? Unless there are supplementary picks, of course, and then it starts to get more complicated. School and conference are probably pretty obvious. NFL position, whether you play quarterback or wide receiver, obviously. The year you were drafted in. Now, for undrafted free agents, that gets a little hinky, because it can often be the first year you record stats. But by and large, you don't have to worry about that too much right now. The age they were drafted in, the age they were and the year they were drafted in, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. What else we got here? In the counting stats tabs, rushing attempts per game, don't need to explain that one. Passing attempts, that's their total passing attempts. In the counting stats sections, it's just what they did for their entire time in college. So those are the complete number of passing attempts, complete number of completions, which I realize now is, you know, I use the same word twice, but there you go. Their total yards, and that's passing, rushing, and receiving yards, just in case they caught a few, you never know. G means games. It's just games played, according to a sports football reference, anyway. Okay, and next it gets a little bit more complicating. Comp percentage last year. That's the completion percentage in the passing game in their last year that they played, according to my data, okay? Now, last, first, best, and average does get separated out a lot in this database, so it's worth noting that that's in the final year they played. So, like, did they only play 6 games? Did they only play, like, 10 passing attempts? That's something to know when looking at this column, I would point out. That's passing yards per game. Again, in their last year, QB average passing yards per attempt. So they're passing yards per attempt for the average of their time in college. So that's their career yards per pass attempt, right? Hopefully that abbreviation makes sense now. Average adjusted yards per attempt, and I believe yards are adjusted by fumbles, interceptions. In this case, there is a stat in here called TNEA, and I don't know what the abbreviation means. I'm just going to be straight up honest with you. Sean Slavin, who invented it, has told me multiple times, and I still don't know what the abbreviation means. But here it is, by age, TNEA. No idea. You can go look at the calculation and the formulation and tab, and see, and maybe you can figure out what TNEA means. I just know this is adjusted yards, including rushing yards. That's the difference with TNEA. Rushing yards and attempts. I know what it is. I don't know what the abbreviation means, but that's what it is. And again, if any of them don't make sense or I don't get to them in this video, if you go to the Formulas and Results tab, in the Formula section, there. It literally has the calculation that I'm using, so hopefully if I don't get to it or it still doesn't make sense, the literal raw math algebra will, solve that for you. Alright, other abbreviations we might want to talk about. Again, the QB tab is relatively small compared to some of the others. Games, I don't have to explain that. YTMA is an initialism, not an anachronism. Okay? That's a nerd bugaboo, right? But anyway, it's yards per team attempt. Notice not pass attempt, so the total number of attempts, rushing and passing that the team had that year, and the player's yards divided by that number. Now, something I would point out here is that I'm using yards per team attempt and yards per team pass attempt a lot, and I realized too late that those create very similar anachronisms, or initialisms. I did it myself. In that yards per team pass attempt is different because it's got a P in it. And that has honestly screwed me up several times while trying to make other stats or calculate other things. So it is one worth reading a little bit more carefully. And again, as I said in the overview video, at the front of the database, it's usually sorted by first, best, last, and average. So you can see what they got in yards per team pass attempt in their first year, last year, best year, average year. Even if it's the same year, to be honest, it just lines it up neatly that way for you. If you want to see it by age, you scan along to the end, like I just showed you with TNEA, and you can see what they did in every year. As well as all of these stats, you can see what they did at every age, or you can see in terms of first, best, last, and average, because a lot of people, everyone has a first, last, best, and average. Not everyone has an age 19 season, and so sometimes, especially using models, people prefer to use one of these instead of career average or a particular age year. Alright, is there anything in here that's going to be passing? No, that's pretty obvious. Completion percentage, passing interceptions. That one, you get that, right? The number, raw number, and over here you've got the percentage, so number of interceptions per pass attempt, broken down by year. And again, with the quarterback tab, where I've done relatively little work, because all the work I did on it proved to be terrible, so I just deleted it. I have very few things shunted to the front of the tab. It's really just completion percentage over expected, which is a Josh Hermsmeyer metric, which is this one right here with all the description in it, because I'm telling you it's a hacked version. I'm using passing yards per game instead of ADOT because I don't have ADOT. And then it explains the rest of the stat. So you don't even have to go to the formula tab to know that, just because if I'm hacking something and doing it weirdly, I do try and note it in the column heading here, which makes it look nasty, but my hope was that you could know without having to go, this guy should really explain his abbreviations, because I'm trying to write it out when it gets complicated, but apparently I still suck. So here we are. Any other abbreviations in here that might be troublesome? I guess I do this a lot, especially right now. I'm doing above conference averages. Now, the difficult thing about this is I have to update the formula tab to tell you how I'm deciding what the conference average is. I mean, you actually probably don't care, right? To be very true, you're like, just give me your ranks. I get it. But you can calculate an average very different ways, and the average has got fallacy in it, so you're trying to come up with the best average. Mostly with yards per team pass attempt, I'm doing the average for players at that position within the last 5 years that had at least 30 touches. That's the average I'm using, and then I divide their yards per team pass attempt by that average for that conference. So I'm adjusting it by recent history and also by position, and they have to have had at least 30 touches in the data to actually he incorporated into that average. That's not always the case. I would pay attention to the formulas and results tab and any notes I put in the column heading when it's because I don't just adjust by conference average. Sometimes I adjust by team average. Sometimes I adjust by age, which is actually my favorite thing to adjust by, because what kind of nerd has a favorite thing to adjust by? But there you go. And so what that average is different depending on what works best or what's intellectually sounder. But for most of the time, when I'm doing conference average, especially in these age columns, most of the time it's just that position in that conference over the last 5 years with at least 30 touches. That's the standard average. But when we get to the wide receiver tab, you'll see I have a lot more different, because some of the work worked. To be fair, it makes us more accurate with rookies, and so I kept it in here. With quarterbacks, I don't know. Good luck. I listen to Sean Siegel, Sean Slavin. I listen to Sean Siegel too, but Sean Slavin most on quarterbacks. Like that's my opinion on quarterbacks. Just whatever Sean says. But with wide receiver and running back, I have some other adjustments, other averages I'm using, because you can get a little bit more granular. If a number actually has signal, I get a little bit more granular. Okay, well, let's look at them per age. Let's look at them if they're only the wide receiver ones. What's the average for wide receiver ones from this conference? So some of the averages are different, I will say that. But yeah, we're doing quarterback right now, so we don't even have to worry about that. This conference average, for example, is just, like I said, 30 touches or more at that position. For the quarterback position, with 30 touches or more, that's the average yards per team attempt. And you already know what that means. YTMA, baby. Which is an initialism. Let me see. Anything else in here? Nope. Maybe. Okay, I look at combine data so much, I sometimes forget these are abbreviated. But like 3-cone, that's probably pretty obvious. Shuttle's pretty obvious. Broad inch. Funny. But that's a broad jump in inches. Obviously, you can see we don't have any 2021 data right now. HASS is height adjusted speed score. You can see the formula in the formula tab. WASS is weight adjusted speed score, which is better. Depends on the position. Also, that's not this video. Like another time. Both mostly don't matter. Combine stats don't matter. And in the NFL section, which is always at the very end of the tab, it's what I use to test whether a stat is telling anything about a player. So the first thing to note is you can see, which of these players have had top 5 seasons, top 12 seasons, or top 24 seasons in PPR scoring in the NFL. So if you sort by it, you can sort by only players that have had at least one top 5 season, and so on and so forth. And that's just an interesting way of filtering the table. Well, let's look at players who were successful in the NFL. What did they do in these stats? That's what that's for. Also, you can see their year 1 target share, which obviously doesn't matter for quarterback much, but I'm doing the same thing for every tab to keep it simple. The first year expected points, EP, everywhere in this database. If it's just the letters E and P, it means expected points, which is a RotoViz model, not mine. Anything smart in here is definitely not mine, to be very, very clear. I'm just copying the smart guys. That's the way I roll. And EP means expected points. So this is their expected points in year 1. This is their fantasy points over expected in year 1 for the receiving position, weirdly. But that's what I imported, and so the quarterback ends up with that tab as well. So FPOE means fantasy points over expected. Again, it's a RotoViz stat. It's entirely RotoViz's work. I'm just using it. Okay? And they came up with that abbreviation, so it's not even my fault. You can also see the points per game they had in their first season, and you can see their average expected points year 1 to 3, and also their average points per game year 1 to 3, if they've played 3 seasons in the NFL. Yes. These are the average of the first 3 years is usually what I test R squared against, just to get an idea of if stats giving a signal, and so that's why that's in there. Anything else? I don't think so. Quarterback should be pretty easy. Huh. Okay, and as you can see, mistakes happen. Look, these are 2021 rookies apparently with NFL stats. That's not right. I've got to go figure out what's going wrong there, and it's probably because I had to create my own own ID to import them, and it's probably screwing it up. So I'm going to have to go remove these 2020 stats. The others should be right. I wouldn't panic too much. Usually it's a very small thing. Like, as you can see with rookies, I can't have draft position, which is part of my ID, so I'm using their first name, basically, and that probably just cocked it up, just for the 2021 class. Just for specials, just for trues. But yeah, that's a quarterback tab. If any other abbreviations in there don't make sense and it's not in the formulas tab, or even if it is and you just don't want to go look, hit me up at Pahowdy in the comments below, wherever you can find me, and yeah, we'll get it figured out together, I guess. Appreciate you guys. Thanks very much, and have a good day. Thanks.